The Feed.
Libsyn and YouTube partnership to deliver real-time metrics to podcast advertisers. So much delightful audio feedback all about podcast feedback. So meta. Libsyn's Julep expands to Spain. The new Libsyn experimental community over on Volley. Yeah, go on now and join. Workflows to easily create video snippets of your episodes. Stats. This time, the mean and median download numbers. Updated advertising rates via AdvertiseCast, and as you all know, so much more. Hello, I am Elsie Escobar, Director of Community and Content for Libsyn, and this is episode 236 of The Feed. The official Libsyn podcast, the podcast that takes it beyond how to podcast into keeping you podcasting, with podcasting tips and information for the everyday podcaster, and taking you inside Libsyn. We use chapter marks heavily on our episodes, so you can jump from topic to topic and easily come back and listen again. Check it out if you want to give it a go. A lot of podcast apps support them. See if yours does. Yeah, shout out to two of the biggies that do support them, Apple Podcast and Spotify. Now, if you would like to get featured on the show, send in your 30-ish second promo. How do you do it? Attach it to an email and send it to thefeed@libsyn.com. If you don't have a promo but you want your voice on the show, ask us a question or add to the conversation that you hear on an episode, send us voice feedback. You can call us at 412-573-1934, or you can use SpeakPipe at speakpipe.com/thefeed. Or, there's another or. You can join our Volley group by tapping on the link in the show notes. And now on to our main conversation with Rob Walsh, VP of Podcaster Relations at Libsyn, as well as my co-host right after the first promo of the episode, That Sort of Weird podcast.
If you're interested in topics such as cryptids, airline crashes, aliens, true crime, technology, conspiracy theories, disasters, paranormal activity, religion, science, and pop culture, then That Sort of Weird might be a podcast you'll want to add to your library. The new That Sort of Weird podcast explores all these topics and more while trying to be informative, critical, and humorous. Your hosts, Mike and Iris, have worked together in the podcasting space for over a decade now and have a unique chemistry, one that just might draw you in and make you laugh. New episodes of That Sort of Weird drop every 2 weeks and can be found on Apple Podcasts and all other podcast delivery systems. If you're old school and listen from your desktop PC, just head over to thatsortofweird.com to listen to new and archived episodes. So fire up your favorite pod app and search for That Sort of Weird to subscribe and listen today.
Hello, Rob.
Good generic time of the day, Elsie.
It's generically earlier for you today.
Not just a few minutes early.
Just a tiny.
But my voice, by the way, has not recovered from Podfest yet.
Oh my. We are going to be talking about that, so I cannot wait to hear your thoughts all about that. Okay. But we are starting a little bit on the heavy Libsyn side as we begin today. So how do we start?
We had a bunch of ones, but I thought the first Libsyn news would be the one that is going to affect the most users. And Mignon could tell me which was the correct one. But in any case, we'll start with this. January 31st, Libsyn announced the data integration partnership with YouTube for podcasters. Specifically, Libsyn's AdvertiseCast, the industry's premier podcasting advertising marketplace that connects advertisers with podcasters, is now connected with YouTube, the fastest growing podcast listening platform, to feed real-time IAB compliant data into its marketplace. The connection enables Libsyn podcasters, brands, and advertisers to gain streamlined access to accurate insights on podcast downloads from YouTube. By the way, I'm quoting this all from our press release. Video podcasts are on the rise, with nearly 6 in 10, 57% listeners saying they prefer podcasts with video, according to a recent Signal Hill Insights study. Don't blame me, blame Signal Hill on that. YouTube is one of the most popular platforms for podcasts, with a vast global audience of over 2 billion active users. Publishing in multi-format audio and video and multi-channel podcasts and YouTube help podcasters expand their reach and build their community while increasing monetization opportunities. The multi-format, multi-channel approach is also opening a number of opportunities for advertisers to reach highly engaged and diverse audiences. This is where we'll step back and say, We've been telling you for 10 years to just set up your YouTube destination and publish to YouTube. For those of you that have listened to us in the past 10 years, this is exciting news coming up here.
Yeah.
So anyway, let me get back to the PR because I'm going way off and quoting now from Anthony Savelli, our SVP of sales for AdvertiseCast. Anthony said the following, quote, podcasters are increasingly uploading their shows to YouTube as both a distribution and marketing channel, and AdvertiseCast is continuing to offer richer data and insights on campaign performance for brand partners. YouTube is one of the most popular podcast listening platforms in the U.S., and usage share has steadily grown from 14% in 2019 to 24.2% in 2012. Libsyn was the first hosting company to support publishing podcasts to YouTube, and this data integration furthers our commitment to the multi-channel approach and will provide better transparency to brands and advertisers, unquote. In addition to bringing IAB-compliant data to the AdvertiseCast marketplace, Libsyn also made improvements to the workflow for publishing podcasts to YouTube. IAB-compliant stats for YouTube are also available to podcasters hosting on Libsyn's platform that have not yet chosen to monetize through the AdvertiseCast marketplace, i.e. this means it's for anyone with advanced stats on Libsyn. So if you're on the Libsyn advanced stats, you now get YouTube stats back into your account. The companies anticipate further announcements to help podcasters improve and expand reach and assist advertisers with improved transparency into the value of podcasting, unquote, at the end of that press release. But long and short is this. If you are in the Libsyn 5 UI and you are an advanced account and you have already set up to publish to YouTube and have actually published to YouTube, go to your stats, scroll to the bottom, and you will now see a YouTube section. And this will be stats that come over even for episodes you had published years ago. Now, we do have a couple questions that already have come in. And Elsie, you want to take the first one listener feedback questions here on this?
Mm-hmm. Here we go. Hi, Rob. If we do a YouTube destination for a video podcast, I'm assuming it will just pass along the video and not make the audiogram. If there are other videos on the channel, does it report those as well? Regards, NR.
Hi, NR. For your first question, absolutely correct. It will pass along a video as is because we support video. So if you upload, and I should say I use this to upload a lot of short videos quite often with Today on iOS with my old unboxing videos, and I'd upload them to YouTube via my Libsyn account. And now the stats are coming back for those videos. Per your second question about whether it'll bring stats for other stuff, no, it will not. It will only bring back stats per those videos or audio episodes that we converted to video that you upload to YouTube from Libsyn, not for any uploaded directly at YouTube. So if you have a YouTube channel and you're using it, connecting it with us and publishing to it for most of your videos, but not all, any of those that you're going directly to YouTube to upload, those stats won't come back because we need to have a post. We need to have that connection, something to report on the stats. So the YouTube stats that you now see in your Libsyn account are for any posts that you publish to YouTube. That can be an audio file that we turn into an audiogram, video with a static image and upload to YouTube, or it can be an actual video. If you're a Libsyn Pro customer, you have unlimited uploads, so it can be long form video. If you're Libsyn.com, you may want to limit that just to the shorter version of videos. But the good news is this. If you had been listening to us in the last 10 years and you had set up the YouTube account and you have advanced stats, you can now go in and see those stats back in your Libsyn account. And I would love to hear from folks that have been set up, and what are you seeing for some numbers? Again, my experience, the numbers are going to be a little bit lower. If you think about it, Google Podcasts is number 3 and they're 2%. If YouTube numbers come in at 0.5% or higher, I would consider that successful for a show. But that's just my expectation. And I'm starting to want to look around at some of the popular shows. I'm going to have a report done and do some research on this and see how it's going now that we got the stats.
Yeah, that would be really curious. Yeah, no. I think that it's a really wonderful opportunity to get that information back for sure. I think the idea of what this means, meaning it's not like if you're publishing your show out there and the ability for us to count audience that's outside of possibly RSS feeds, right? That are the audience sometimes consumes your content, even if it's at bits. in other channels that sometimes aren't a podcast app. So that just allows us to recognize that we can have a larger audience count, and that's the key. It sort of legitimizes the platform model for selling advertising on your show. And this is done with IAB stats, which that to me is the clincher right there, that you're able to get that back for you. So wait, does that mean that if like somebody, because you know how when you go on YouTube and there's like, let's say a preview channel or something like that, right? At the top, like a trailer channel. And sometimes those trailer channels, those videos just start playing, the little trailer at the top. If somebody does that, it won't count it if it just starts going and you're like, oh, no, stop it. Right? If you delineate one of your podcasts.
It has to be a minute worth of data that's played.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So that's great. That's great because that's what tends to happen. At least for me, every time we go to our channel, the little trailer video right at the top of the page always starts going. And I'm like, no, I don't want that to play.
And the YouTube stats are separate. They're in a separate module. They're not added to your overall stats, right? Because those are download stats, right? But they're brought in so you can see the YouTube stats right inside, right next to your Libsyn stats.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. Awesome. Good. Congrats. And so we are looking to get a little bit of feedback from you all. So go ahead and email thefeed@libsyn.com and let us know what you think about this. If you have other questions about it, please send us out. I'm looking to create a little bit of an FAQ, if you will, not even just one document, but maybe answering questions like the one that we just answered, that Rob just answered, about what happens with the video, because everybody has these little nuanced questions that come up. And we'd love to help answer those questions for you so you could take advantage of this integration. And it's so easy to do inside of the dashboard. So, yay, yes.
And send those questions to thefeed@libsyn.com.
Yep. All right. So then, though, we have Libsyn's Julep expands into Spain.
I'll let you take this one and give my voice a chance to recover.
Okay. So this is from the PR that went out on February 1st. Julep, Liberator Syndication Inc. company announced its expansion into Spain with a localized version of its podcast platform and the appointment of 2 audio and sales experts to drive growth for the region. Based in Madrid, Madelon Lanches, previously at LBK, Immersive Audio Productions SL, will be responsible.
Can I just add this? I am so glad you're taking this section because I would have killed that name. I'm just saying. Yeah. It would not have gone well.
Okay, good. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right, good. So anyway, Madelon Sanchez will be responsible for partner management, and Javier Huertas, based in Barcelona, previously at TikTok and HTT Pool, where he was Spotify partner director, will serve as country director, Spain. Julep has been part of Libsyn since 2022. The acquisition bolstered Libsyn's presence in international markets, enabling the company to become the global destination for creators looking to monetize and brands looking for exposure to the fast-growing podcast media market. In addition to its core market of Germany, Julep is already active in Austria and Switzerland. Spain marks Julep's 4th European territory, with continued international expansion for the Libsyn subsidiary expected this year. Yay! Effective immediately, Stefan Hoff and Mike Lenz. And Mike, I'm so sorry if I said your name not right. I'm going to go ahead and listen to your name at some point and make sure I pronounce it ongoing well. Are taking on added roles as a result of the expansion. In addition to his role as CEO of Julep, Stefan Hoff has been appointed head of international at Libsyn and will focus on driving further growth across Europe. Mike Lenz, Vice President of Sales at Julep since July 2020, is also Country Director for Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, taking on primary responsibilities for the sales and podcast artist management in the D Germany, A Australia, and CH Switzerland region.
So that's the DAC region? Or is it DACH? I guess it'd be DACH.
DACH
region.
DACH region, yes.
Yeah.
Yay! Yay!
And we have a quote here from Stefan, and I will read that from Stefan. He says, quote, "By entering the Spanish market, we are continuing to scale our growth internationally with the active support of our parent company, Libsyn. I am pleased to welcome the two names that Elsie so well pronounced earlier that I'm not going to even try. Two proven sales and audio experts in Spain to our world-class team. I am also delighted that the operational development of our business in the DACH region will be led by Mike Lenz. I wish everyone great success in their new roles," unquote. Is it Madelon? How do you pronounce Madelon Lanchez? Anyway,
Madelon.
I'm really, folks, thank you. I'm bad enough trying to pronounce names in English. But congratulations, Stefan, and the whole Julep team on the expansion into Spain. That's great news. It's exciting. When we went going through the acquisition process of Julep, that was always a goal, was to get into the Spanish market there, and they've made it happen. So cool, and congrats.
Love it. And kind of moving from this position of expansion into Europe and these markets, we have someone that lives outside of the U.S. in the European area because she often moves around. We've got a little bit of feedback from Stephanie Fuccio. Here we go.
Hey, Elsie, Steph Fuccio here. I just heard your call to action on the feed for us to give you feedback on why listener feedback has gone down. And I think that was brilliant. I've been actually honing in on my annoyance with call to actions in podcasts over the past week or two. I've been thinking about it for longer, but I've just been specifically making lists and plans and things over the past couple of weeks, specifically for my own podcast. And I've come to a few, I wouldn't say conclusions yet. I've come to a few hypotheses. Is that the word? Hypothesis? Theories. Yes, theories is a better word. So theory number one is we are overwhelming listeners with too many call to actions. I listen to a fair bit of podcasts, as I know you do too, and I hear people do 2 or 3 call to actions in the intro, and then other ones in the mid-roll, and then some in the outro, and that's a lot to ask one listener to do. And I know the whole point is you want to catch different people at different depending on which part of the episode they catch. But honestly, I think if you've got the intro and or the mid-roll, I think you're good. Also, the excessive number of them is just so intense. Like you mentioned, they're listening to stuff probably when they're not looking at their phone. And for me, I do actually stop what I'm doing, pause, screenshot, email myself a reminder, and do stuff later. But I'm kind of an obsessive podcast listener. I don't think most people have the headspace time or want to do that much work to give feedback to a host. Not out of anything mean, just people are busy. If they're cleaning around the house, they don't have time to clean their hands and then get to their phone and then, screenshot and message themselves and stuff like that. That's a lot to ask of someone. So I think the combination of too many asks, too many call to actions, as well as making it kind of hard. Also, where they put the call to actions, I'm still hearing a fair number of podcast episodes where the call to action doesn't come until the outro. And I don't know how much people look at their consumption data, but a lot of people drop off well before the outro. And so I was trying to tell my clients, do the call to actions at the intro, or at the very least 10 minutes in, maybe the mid-roll if you're really feeling confident about this. But for me, I'm actually starting to do not just one clear call to action, but this month I actually just started my own challenge for myself to do one call to action for one of my podcasts for an entire month and track and see how many people actually do that thing that I'm asking them to do. Because I have heard some people say that if you actually give the call to action breathing room, that people might do it. I guess it's sort of like advertising. People need to hear an advertisement a certain amount of times. It's probably the same for call to actions as well. And I think we keep switching it up because we're so excited to share the stuff that we're talking about as podcasters. But honestly, I think it's overwhelming when we keep switching the call to action all the time. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with my little challenge, my little CTA challenge. But I'm kind of excited to see if it works. Although only having 12 asks in 1 year for a podcast sounds a little limiting. If it actually works and gets conversations going, then I'm willing to limit myself to those 12. Anyway, those are my thoughts on call to actions and listener feedback. I think we need to be simpler. I think we need to repeat things earlier. And I think we need to maybe do the same call to action more times. That one's a question mark. The first two I feel very firm about. This is my 3 cents, I guess, on call to actions and why listeners are not replying as much as they used to. I think these all are factors. I don't know for sure, but I'm going to do some experiments and find out some of it, I hope. Thanks for the brain scratch, and thanks for all you and Rob do for the feed. It's a fantastic podcast. Bye.
Well, thanks, Steph, for the kind words and the feedback on feedback. And yeah, I mean, right. So we have feedback on feedback today, which is great because, her thoughts about too many CTAs. Yes. That honestly, that's the whole reason when people ask me, Rob, what's the big deal? Why do you keep saying don't bother asking for ratings and reviews? Because you can only ask for so much, right? There's only so much blood you can get from a stone. And why waste that call to action when there's no real benefit? As near as I can tell, there's no benefit to having people do ratings and reviews. It doesn't help you in the rankings, doesn't help you anywhere. Most people don't look at ratings and reviews. It doesn't help you. I always say, if you're going to waste a call to action or you're going to have a call to action, don't waste it on ratings and reviews. Ask people to tell their friends and family about your show or ask for feedback. And she talks about where that call to action should be. And it shouldn't be just at the end. I agree. Mentioning something in the intro, we just mentioned it in the last segment about, hey, if you're going to send feedback, send it to the feed at Libsyn.com. Mention it where it's relevant in the show and it fits with the content, where you're saying something you want feedback. Yep. At that point, do the call to action. And then she wrapped it up with 3 things: simpler, repeat things earlier, and repeat call to actions multiple times. Yes, I agree. She was questioning on the third one. But yes, I agree with that third one as well.
Well, she's going to be doing experiments. She's done some other data type of experiences already when it came to something she finished off during, I believe it was during, I don't even know the name of it, Napod Plo. I don't know. It's like every day there's a podcast kind of a thing that comes out in the month of November. Mm-hmm. And so she did a really interesting experiment for 30 days and got a lot of very great data. So she's going to be testing some of this stuff out for sure. I think that to add to what she was saying and to what you're saying, Rob, I think one of the missing pieces that I have heard in podcasts is the fact that in addition to the repetition, there needs to be context around the feedback. So let's say, like, as of now, I just called out, hey, if you are using the YouTube destination or are looking at those new stats that we just released, go ahead and send us some feedback over at the feed at Libsyn.com so that we can get insight, right? So we get insight, we get people using it, we get an opportunity to understand how you're experiencing whatever that is. And so it serves 2 different parts, right? One of them, we can inform product of maybe some of the feedback that we're getting from at least the folks that consume this show. We get to build relationship with our people. And then we also have content for the show, right? So it's like 3-sided for that. It is in alignment with all of these different ways. And you get, as a person who's listening to the show, you just heard Stephanie share her thoughts. It makes her part of our show. It expands that. People understand how that feedback is going to be used. And then that way you can make a better choice. Like, do I want that or do I not want that? And, oh, that's how they're using feedback. All of that really matters. You can't sometimes ask for feedback on your show and just be like, send us some feedback. What is that? What do you want? Where's it going? Why should I?
I'll say this, Steph. Please send us your results of your experiments because we love experiments and we love results of experiments.
It would be amazing. All right. But then we also have another little bit of Libsyn news here. Libsyn bolsters all-in-one podcast creator and advertising platform.
Libsyn announced the latest in a series of product innovations for podcast creation, hosting, and advertising services at Podfest Expo 2023, including the debut of Libsyn Connect in beta, a browser-based podcast collaboration tool that delivers incredible, high-quality remote recording. From John Gibbons, CPO of Libsyn, quote, We've doubled down on our innovation investments, and our platform strategy is paying off with the scaling of our advertising business, international expansion, and enhancements of cutting-edge tools for creators and advertisers. We're delivering on our mission to unlock the creative potential of the full spectrum of podcasters, from independents to established creators, by empowering them to bring their diverse voices to life, grow their audiences, and monetize their shows with ease from a single destination, unquote. Continuing on the press release. Seamless all-in-one solutions for creators with a booming creator economy and more podcasters entering the fray with varying levels of skills. Libsyn simplifies podcasting for creators by making it easier to access everything they need to get started, to host, to promote, to grow, to monetize, and to get metrics on their podcasts.
Woohoo!
Among the latest platform innovations and partnerships integrated into Libsyn's industry-leading platform, Libsyn Connect Beta delivers a comprehensive, feature-rich recording solution that provides creators with everything they need to record the highest quality audio interviews. Among the key Libsyn Connect Beta recording features, 1. Integrated multi-track recording saves time and provides greater flexibility and control during editing and post-production for creators. 2. Continuous sync recording to ensure that all guest recordings are of the highest quality and synchronized, especially for remote guest participants. Okay, so I want to talk about these two for a second. For editors out there, this means individual tracks for each guest and no drift. Again, let me repeat that. Multi-track recording for as many guests as you want, multi-hours long on that recording. It could be through 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours long tracks for each guest and no drift, which means less work for editors. We just made you time, right? We have tools to make you money. This is one of those tools that makes you time. All right, going back. Third item here, a built-in chat feature that enables creators to have a sidebar conversation with podcast guests to minimize editing. And you'll love this chat feature. So I'm going off script here. You'll love this chat feature as we automatically save the chat history, which you can come back to later on and download. So if you've ever talked with someone, say on Zoom, and they put a link in the chat window and you forget to get it before the chat was over, then this feature is for you. And that's embarrassing. You're interviewing someone, they go, here's a link to my latest book, here's a link to my latest whatever it is, and you forgot to grab the link, and then you're editing and you hear them say that, and you're like, oh, now you got to email them to get the link to put it in the show notes. Again, there's one of those little things that means a lot when saving or making podcasters time. So now you don't have to have your tail between your leg going back to your guest, asking them for links that they already gave you. All right. And then the fourth item in here is the option to easily record on mobile devices for podcasters on the go. Additionally, and here's some other items here, Libsyn is among the first podcast platforms to integrate with Apple's podcast subscriptions, empowering Libsyn's creators to launch and grow podcast subscriptions by streamlining the publishing process to Apple Podcasts. Next, with the integration of Studio into Libsyn, creators can now easily produce their podcasts with automated production or post-production or processing inside the Libsyn toolset, including the addition of a reusable chapter tool to speed podcast creation. And then a newly designed user interface and navigation enriches podcasting workflow experience and makes accessing and analyzing podcast performance data even better for creators. And finally, Libsyn now offers automatic ads, a programmatic solution that allows creators to further monetize their Libsyn podcast by dynamically inserting ads where they want within their podcast. So again, no algorithm that's going to put it in. You pick the time code and you get it right. No magic that falters and puts ads in the middle of words or sentences or thoughts. You pick as the producer where your ads go. You control it, which is what you want as a producer. It's really bad to have an ad right in the middle of a conversation about someone's grandma's dying. That's an update of where we're at. And we should mention this on Libsyn Connect. It's available for anyone with an advanced plan or greater. So if you're on a $20 or greater plan, Libsyn Connect is available for you to use for your recording, to use for conference calls. It's there, and you get access to it in the Libsyn 5 UI, just in the upper right-hand side. Click New, and then there's an option there for the Libsyn Connect. And as we've said, we've been using it for this show for over a year as our way of doing the recordings, and the audio quality is great.
Okay, and all of the releases, everybody, are going to be in the show notes. So just keep an eye out on that and read up. And now moving on again to a little bit more listener feedback. This is from Dave Stewart. Not, I know when I first I thought it was Stewart, but it's not Stewart. It's Steward with a D. Here we go.
Hey, Rob and Elsie, this is Dave. I just listened to Elsie's blog post summary, and I agree. And for me, I have not left this on the Libsyn, our intro for our podcast all these years. And I listen to Libsyn pretty much every week, right? So I'm one of those dedicated people. And part of it is, for me, I'm just overloaded with stuff to do. I have multiple podcasts. I mean, I've got one big one that takes up the majority of the time, but I've got another one that I'm kicking off again. I've got just so much to do. I've got a team I'm working with. And for me to sit down and spend really, gosh, that's the crazy thing. I could do this in literally minutes, right? I can do an intro, but I want to do it right. I don't want to do a crappy intro or a kind of a promo for you guys. So that's kept me from doing it. And I'm doing this now because I know I'm just getting it out there, and I'm doing it just before I'm getting ready to do another podcast, because we're doing a lot of podcasts every week. So it's like that content, everything that I'm doing has kept me from doing the promo, which I've been wanting to do for years, right? I've been wanting to do the promo for years. I still haven't done it. So I feel like maybe people are overwhelmed with just stuff they're doing. And so like right now, I can send you an email easily on social and stuff like that. But I just feel like I'm more busy, quite a bit busier than I used to be. Well, that's not true. I've always been really busy. But I feel like that's what's kept me from doing it. I hope that helps. But I will also say on our own, I feel like maybe the last year, also, we don't get as many emails as well from our own podcast. I solicit them mainly on the podcast. I do one shout out usually at the start every week or two. That's my main call to action. I don't do a lot of it on social. I don't really do any of it on social. Occasionally on the newsletter, I do it. So that's my take. Just want to give you the feedback and let you know I'm out here and loving the show and appreciate everything you do. This is Dave, Wet Fly Swing Podcast, and we're relaunching our previous marketing podcast that's out there, Loving Connect as well, getting ready to launch Connect. Thanks again. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Dave, on that feedback about getting feedback. He initially said, don't use this, but then in the email follow-up, I was like, man, that's really great feedback. Can we use this, please? And he said, okay. So thank you, Dave, for allowing that. He's been wanting to do the promo for years. And thank you also for the plug at the end for Connect. Creating a promo, we've said it before, we'll say it again, it's really important as a podcaster. You should do that. Make it the trailer episode for episode 1 in your feed. Make it the oldest item in your feed. Have that trailer available and label it as a trailer. It'll show up in Apple Podcasts as a trailer for your show. And some other apps are starting to use that. So absolutely have a promo for your show. Publish it with, again, our publishing tools at Libsyn are like the DeLorean. You can pick any day or time in the past or future. Pick one in the past so that it's your oldest episode in your feed. Get it in there. Label it as a trailer with the Apple tags, and you're good to go. And some people may find it. Some people, unlike us, don't beg for promos. They go out and find them and just put them up. They go, oh, this is on a show I like. I'll put it up. We, on the other hand, we like to beg. We don't have time to go out and do that. So please send us more promos, right? So there's your begging call to action, the feed at libsyn.com.
And, I did get a few, but you understand, I think everybody that's listening here at this time consuming our content knows how hard I went at it, or how hard we went at it in the last episode. Again, I'm just letting everybody know in full transparency that sometimes whenever we do a directed outreach that way, it has to be incredibly intentional on both Rob's and my part. Like, we have to keep on pushing it forward, bringing it forward, asking for it again, and the importance of it. And that requires intention and energy for you to be able to do that and get the results that you want. So I did get results, right? So I booked out for this episode, for next episode, and I started the next episode. That doesn't mean that it's over though. And sometimes what happens with us, or I don't know if you felt like this too, Rob, we work so hard at getting the show out that after the show is out, we kind of disinflate. It's sort of like, oh,
yes,
right. Like, okay, I'm done with that.
And sometimes we're like, okay, I'm not going to touch or even think about show notes for a week.
Exactly.
Or more.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what happens is when we come back, if we don't have that asking for feedback or whatever your goal is, that you got to invest in it in the same way that you did last time. And sometimes we get tired of our own asks. I know for myself, I'm like, do I really have to ask for this again? And then you realize, yes, I actually do, because people don't do anything if you don't ask for it.
You know what? People get tired of us asking for it too.
Yeah,
So if you folks out there don't want to hear us asking for promos, just keep sending them in, and then you won't hear us asking about it.
I know you'll hear less, right? You'll hear less because we'll have them. But all that to say, thank you so much, Dave. You took, and another note about this too, podcast, our own audience is like this, by the way. And maybe there's a layer of this for your audience. So take that as well. We tend to judge ourselves harder when we're leaving feedback. I think one way is because we're podcasters and we want to sound good, right? There's always that element, like we have to be extra. Don't worry about it. Don't be extra. Just send the stuff. It's a lot like listening to Dave. He was like, oh, I don't know if this audio, it's a great audio quality from where he was at. He was very insightful, loved everything that he had to say. Plus the bonus is that people get to know who Dave is, and his show is wetflyswing.com/show, right? And he's doing stuff that's amazing. So you'll get an opportunity to be inspired by him. We're not going to be like, oh, his show must suck because his audio feedback was so subpar. Like, that's not going to happen. And I'm sure your audience also feels that way. They feel like, oh, I don't know if I should send that feedback. But keep sending it. It's all good. It's great. It's great. Anyway, moving forward, we are now going to be talking a little bit about PodFest.
Great event, Chris. Well done. Great job. It had that community feel to it. It was well run, as all Chris's events are. Nice venue. I like the hotel this year and layout and everything. A lot of talking. So my voice is still recovering, which is a good thing, right? The fact my voice is still shot Thursday and I got back on Sunday. So that's a good thing. I did not go out to the karaoke bar on Friday night. Was it Friday night? So my voice really would have been shot because everybody on Saturday, their voice was toast. So I actually had my voice on Saturday. But yeah, it was really great seeing a wide variety. And it was a really wide variety of folks, from people just getting started to people that have been doing it for 10, 15 years. Todd Cochran popped in, and so Lou Mangello and Allison Helly, and just a lot of folks that, you know, we've seen in the space for years, but then a lot of people I got to meet that were new. Kimmy, I had met her before. She's been around for a while. And again, it's one of those events that had that community feel to it. And it was nice to have that again. You know, it's been a few years because of COVID to have that kind of feel at an event. So well done, Chris. I had fun speaking. I did on the main stage a presentation about the state of podcasting, and even worked a George Santos slide in there. Had some fun with that, which is always risky, doing a political joke.
Oh my.
But I nailed it. Oh I didn't get complaints from either side. I was like, I even went to Corey. I go, Corey, too much? It's okay. But yeah, it was a good event, and I had fun doing the presentation, and it was great talking with people at the booth and going over what is important to them. We talked about some of the things we talk about here on the show, the importance of your title, optimizing your show title for predictive search, and changed a few people's titles, got them to change their titles at the show, and saw instant results before the show was over. So that's always fun too. Mm-hmm. And we had 6 people there from Libsyn that were at the event. And Yvette was there, and she spoke, and Brian Green spoke, Dave Jackson spoke, I spoke, Corey was there, and Reggie was there. So it was a good group. Oh, Rich came in. So yeah, we had 7 people show up at the show.
Awesome. It's great. It's good. I heard really good things about it. I think it came up so fast, Rob, that I didn't even have a chance to even consider attending. Usually I'm like, should I go? Should I not go? This is like, plan and all this stuff. I'm like, I can't. There's no way. No.
There was a lot of asks about, where's Elsie? Where's Elsie?
Oh, that's so kind. FOMO's always good. Anyway, let us keep on moving forward, unless there's something else that we need to touch base on in terms of the podcasting, of PodFest.
No, I would just say, you're an indie podcaster, definitely think about attending next year. And Chris is going to have events throughout the year, different locations around the country, small meetups, but definitely think about attending PodFest next year. Hopefully it'll be back around the same time, the January, February timeframe in Orlando, and hope to see folks there next year at that event.
Sweet. This is a great time to talk about other adventures. This is promo number 2.
Saval's Guild of Adventurers. Many come to train here. Few have the dedication necessary to enter the life of an adventurer.
Cities under attack.
Lost artifacts uncovered.
A king's missing daughter.
Evil brewing in the forest.
Trouble lurks around many corners. Each for their own reasons, these 4 individuals have sought out this lifestyle. Follow their stories in the Aurelian epic as they confront their nightmares,
Decipher their visions.
Explore new realms.
And make the world a better place.
These are
The Adventures in Aurelia.
Listen to this story at adventuresinaurelia.com. That's ERYLIA.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, and now moving on to, again, staying on the whole feedback, because we did get a lot of feedback, and it actually came up for me from the fact that I'm looking to build a more robust community around the feed, something that is not helpful just to the show, but actually for each other, so that we can really get to know each other a little bit better. I was a little better about this early on in our podcast history, if you will. The beginning episodes were a little bit heavier on my asks for this, and then I just stopped. And so I'm wanting to build that up again. So I actually set up a little community on an app called Volley. And this is both a way to bring people together and also an experiment, because I love to experiment with things, and podcasters sometimes are the best people to experiment with because they're used to creating content. They're used to at least tinkering with things, right? That's part of the MO for podcasters. And so I decided to do this, and Volley is essentially supposedly leads with a video messaging app. That's what it leads with, but it also does other things. You can record audio messages. You can also just share plain text. And one of the key features about this in terms of gathering feedback is that it does have an opportunity for people to download the video or the audio. And I'm looking, and that's actually part of what we need for this episode, to be able to download some of the audio or videos and rip the audio off and put it in here with permission, of course, because I outlined that as well, to be able to put it here. And it seems to be really neat. So at this time of this recording, we have 11 people that have joined the Volley. And remember, the only time that I actually mentioned this was at the intro of the show last episode. It was really quick. There were links in the show notes, so I didn't push it. I haven't shared it in an episode, but it would be great if you all showed up. I've been posting little tiny things in there, little behind the scenes here and there. I haven't really engaged with it too much, just enough. And my hope is for us to have further discussions around the episode. So if there's something comes up and you're like, oh my gosh, I really need to talk about this, or I really want to respond to this real quick, that's a really good way to do it, because there is a little episode discussion group, if you will, within the feed community. So check it out. But this is a message that we got, interestingly, through email, but also he also left me an audio, and some of the members too, on the Volley app. So here's the feedback. Hey, good episode. I applaud the attempt of setting up a community of podcasters and especially appreciate the new Connect capacity. I will send in a show promo soon. However, I think I will wait until launch. My new RSVP Rescue Services Voices podcast. The actual name will be RSVP 911. And I'll be doing the promo and trailer in the next week or so. Also, there is a fairly scattered podcasting community on Twitter. Is there anything a Libsyn user and fan can do to strengthen the connective tissue? I would like to multiply or enhance anything that is in the works. Okay. Also, thanks for the artwork clarification. The timing was great, as I am putting together the show art and some potential episode art for the RSVP 911 cast. Okay, now that's all the feedback I have time for right now. It's time to go work on content. Peace. And this is from Jim. So Jim's part of the group, and he reached out and he left messages there as well. And it's been really awesome. Good luck on your new launch there, Jim. So thanks so much for participating and for even just considering bringing us a little bit closer together. So, Rob, you're going to have to join at some point. Anyway, moving on.
I just downloaded the app and I'm waiting for my email verification to get in.
Okay. All right, good. Now, we have a little bit of audio feedback from Wynn. And Wynn has been a longtime listener as well. But there's something interesting that she brings out about Volley.
Hey, you guys. Good time of the day. It's Wynn. I did join the Volley space, and I'm liking it because it's handicap accessible. It's easier for me to do video than typing because I can't type. But I did enjoy, and I'm looking forward to more. And you guys said that you want feedback, so that's what I'm doing. Again, this is Wynn from Aspen, also the Artwork of CP. Those podcasts are hosted by the fabulous Lipson. Those podcasts could be found wherever you get your podcast. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Thank you, Wynn, for the feedback.
Thank you for the feedback. And, you know, it's really interesting because I hadn't really thought about it from that perspective. And in order for you to really, again, serve your audience and get feedback, you have to really recognize where they're coming from, what they're using, what's the ease of use of getting from their brains into your either content, your show, or maybe just a dialogue. What's the easiest for them? So this is something that I didn't foresee, but, you know, Wynn really prefers leaving little videos because it's easier for her to be able to do something like that. And that's just something to note. Okay, moving forward. Hello, Elsie and Rob. I'm working to be a smarter, not harder producer for my clients. I'm using a social media generator that pulls in audio and slaps on some template graphics and pushes it out on social channels with some waveforms and the like. One of the options in the program I'm using allows for RSS soundbite tags, but I can't seem to find a place to do that in Libsyn. Is there a place for that? And am I completely misunderstanding the role of RSS soundbites? Regards, NR.
Well, hi, NR. This is a podcast index tag, and yes, in the Libsyn 4 UI, we absolutely do support this. You need to add in the tag manually under the Advanced tab in the Libsyn 4 UI when you're editing and publishing an episode, not in the Libsyn 5 UI. So you have to go back to 4.libsyn.com, sign in there, and add it in that. I added this tag to the last episode of the feed, episode 235, and it was a 2-minute soundbite where I did a little soapbox rant about podcasts falling off a cliff. And this is something where you are adding in an RSS tag manually at the episode item level. This does mean you need to be careful, and support is not going to tell you about this. And probably, definitely some are cringing right now listening to this as I talk about adding in custom tags. But actually, it is really easy in Libsyn 4 UI to do. When publishing or editing an episode, go to the Advanced tab, and there you see a box called Extra Tags. In that box, you would enter in the different podcast index custom item tags. In this case, it is the podcast :soundbite tag. And the format is less than podcast :soundbite space start time with T capitalized equals, and then quote the duration in seconds, unquote, and then space duration equals quote, and then how long you want the clip to be up to 120 seconds, unquote, and then / greater than, / greater than. Email me on that, rob@libsyn.com. But it's really easy to add that. And you can even also add it where you have text in there. And that's what I did. I will say this, most apps, and I mean virtually all apps, do not support the soundbite tag. Not even yet Fountain, which is a popular one for the podcast index. I talked to the developer yesterday asking him if he supported it yet. Not yet, but I did set him up with a test account so he can get in there and test with this. As a matter of fact, I'll say this to any app developer. Any app developer looking to support podcast index tags, email me, rob@libsyn.com. I will get you in a test account so you can go in and test out all these different tags on your app, which we do support again. And if you check out, by the way, I should say the one app that does support this, Podverse app, Podverse, does support it. And if you go and check out episode 235 of the feed, you will see the clips, as they are called. They call it for that episode. And kudos to the Podverse team for getting that in their app. Again, since we already have the podcast index namespace supported in our RSS feeds for the block tag, that means in the Libsyn 4 UI, we pretty much support almost all the item level tags, if not all the item level tags.
Nice. I have just a little bit of feedback on something that I tested out. Doesn't have to do with the soundbite tag, but it does have to do with chapter marks. I changed just the way that I was doing chapter marks by putting a little parentheses around the time codes that I add. By the way, these are added via ID3 tags. So I use Forecast to add all the chapters in there. I work very hard to be able to add almost all the conversations in there. You can very easily move back and forth and re-listen to segments or skip segments because I understand that sometimes that's the way people engage with content. So feel free to do all of that stuff. That's why I do them. But this is an interesting other one as well, is that now Spotify supports the ability for you to also do these chapter marks. So because of the way that I put those little parentheses around it, I wasn't doing that before because it was inside of the ID3 tags, and therefore the app itself, if you support chapter marks, it would use them through the ID3 tags. But Spotify does it from I believe, from the show notes. And so
from the description.
From the description.
Tag.
From the description tags. And so I put those little parentheses in the description tags for each of the time codes. And now you can go in Spotify, and if you listen to the feed on Spotify and you open up the description, you can just go to whatever part by just tapping on the time code. And I tested it, and it's amazing and so fast. That's really cool. Not a snippet, not a soundbite, but it's easy to go through all of those things, and it's really awesome. Another app that does something like Soundbites, but I don't think it's from Soundbites, is Snipped, which is another one of my favorite apps. And what it does, if you subscribe to a podcast inside of Snipped, you decide it's one of your favorites. You can request for it to be transcribed for you inside of the app, and it naturally, and AI is so famous nowadays, the AI rhythm, whatever is going on, algorithm in there, will choose what they think are the best parts of the show and kind of create these other little chapter marks in there. And from those, you can export those out into little audiograms that are transcribed, and you can even choose whether or not you want the little words to come out, and they're really great. I love Snipped so much. Anyway, those are other opportunities for you to use some apps that are doing some good stuff. Okay, moving on to, hi Rob, is there a way to release a link to our sister show's episode within our feed so they still get the downloads for it? I feel like you've mentioned that on the feed in the past, but I don't remember how to do it. Or if we can on Libsyn 5, let me know if I should email support instead. Thanks, NR.
Hi, NR. Yes, you need to do it from the Libsyn 4 UI, not the new Libsyn 5 UI yet. First, mouse over content and select Add New Text Post. So you have to do it as a text post. You got to start this as a text post, and then put in a title and description and click Publish. Then get the enclosure tag for the episode you want to add for your show from the other show, and then go back to the post and add in the enclosure tag under advanced settings. We were just talking about advanced settings for the podcast index, but you can also in there add in an enclosure tag and then publish to all destinations. Once you've done that, if you need more detailed steps on this, let me know. But you do need to go and after you've done that is go back and check your destinations and make sure it's published to all the different destinations. To which NR had a reply.
Hi, Rob. Great. Thank you so much. Will this reflect the downloads from our feed on their stats? That was my goal.
Hi, NR. Yes, that is what will happen. All stats for that episode will show up in their stats. And I should say, if that show is also on Libsyn, you should ask them to use the custom tracking code. Then they can tell in their stats exactly which ones came from your feed. For example, if they put in name redacted in the custom tracking code, then the enclosure tag will enable them to see the downloads from you, because that tag will go into the enclosure tag as well. They should do that also in the Libsyn 4 UI. which they do by going to episode list under content and then clicking on the links icon. That's a sideways 8. And at the top of the pop-up window is a place to add in that custom tracking code. But again, this will get your other show's episodes in your show's feed and with all stats going back to the other show and being trackable so they know exactly how many downloads you brought them. It's kind of cool when you think about it, how we can do that all. And again, that right now you have to do that all from inside the Libsyn 4 UI for the time being. So Libsyn 4 is becoming more and more where the power features are left. But again, in the future, we hope to have those features over to Libsyn 5.
It's everybody's favorite time, moving into stats. So we're going to start that transition by featuring our third promo of the episode, Recovery Coast to Coast.
If you're in recovery from addiction or just want to find out more about the recovery process or know someone struggling with addiction, this is the podcast for you. Recovery Coast to Coast, featuring interviews with people in long-term recovery. Recent episodes have included interviews with singer-songwriter Bonnie Raitt, actor John Larroquette, and NFL legend Thomas Hollywood Henderson, sharing their personal stories of recovery. All episodes available at recoverycoasttocoast.org. The bright side of addiction is recovery.
All right. Thank you. And speaking of recovery, there's a lot of stats addicts out there that will never get into recovery.
No.
Let's feed their Joneses. Here we go. We're going to start off with median and mean numbers to see how your show measures up or your client show. The median mean numbers are based on all episodes released on Libsyn, Libsyn Pro in the month of December with downloads measured until the end of January. On average, each file was about 45 days old. This is again per all shows hosted on Libsyn, Libsyn Pro. The median number for December was 156. That's up a smidge from November's 152. The adjusted mean average right throughout the top 0.5%, all those big popular shows, Sam Harris and Dan Carlin and Hardcore History, and any other files with 3 or less, and then I throw anything out with 3 or less downloads, right? And that adjusted mean for December was 1561. That's up a bit from November when it was 1532. 7.7% of all downloads for episodes released in December were in the 5K range or greater for downloads. That is the magical number some advertisers look for downloads for campaigns. This was up a smidge from November's 7.6%. And then here are some numbers to measure against. And to put things in perspective, if your episodes are getting over 156 downloads after 30 days, you are better than half the shows out there. More than 1,200, you're better than 80%. More than 3,600, you're better than 90%. More than 8,300, you're better than 95% of shows. More than 21,000, you're better than 98%. And more than 35,000 per episode, and you are better than 99% of the shows. And for the most part, December's numbers were up a smidge versus November, or up a bit. So we had a smidge and a bit, but either way, they were up. Good trend. We always like to see up for the trend. Our AdvertiseCast team updated their monthly podcast advertising rates. These rates are denoted as cost per thousand, or CPM. The data is derived from actual sales data from across 3,000 plus podcasts in the AdvertiseCast marketplace. And from Dave Hanley, our Chief Revenue Officer, quote, "We saw a slightly lower average CPM rate in January due to the typical seasonality which follows the holiday season. Coming into 2023, we've signed several new exclusive podcast advertising partnerships, and many are leveraging our Libsyn auto ads offering to augment their host-read program with programmatic ad revenue. We expect to roll out even more features soon to enable creators and advertisers to drive more value from podcasting with improved measurement, insights, and transparencies," unquote. Hey, and one of those shows that he was talking about is Lore. Welcome, Aaron, back to Libsyn, and we're happy to be working with Aaron again and the Lore podcast. For January, the average CPM rate for a 60-second spot was at $22.28, down from December's $23.58. Note, this is the average CPM for a single 60-second ad drop in an episode. If an episode has, for example, 3 ad drops, it would be 3 times $22.28. The 3 highest CPM categories for January were games and hobbies, $28 CPM, technology, $26 CPM, true crime, a $26 CPM. Average means average. Some shows had higher rates and some lower. Thanks, Dave and team, for keeping the space educated on where average ad rates are for podcasting and per ad read basis. And of course, if you are interested in advertising on a podcast, maybe to promote your show to a similar audience, please email me directly, rob@libsyn.com, and I can get you set up with the right people, and the AdvertiseCast team can help you grow your show or sell your product via podcast advertising. Again, email me directly, rob@libsyn.com, if you're looking to advertise on other podcasts. So that brings us into the Where Have We Been? And as I mentioned in the last episode, I was a guest on the Long Island History Project podcast, recorded with Libsyn Connect. Thanks, Chris, for having me on the show. And that episode is live, and we'll have a link in the show notes for that. You can learn a little bit about Bayport, where the Hardy Boys are from, and where Selena Gomez's character in Only Murders in the Building is from. And we talked about that a little bit. And Satellite Pizza, the best calzones in the world, because they deep fry them, are there.
Oh my God.
Right. And then we had the virtual event, your first virtual event, which went off seamlessly without an issue and was well received in the future, which when you hear this is the past, right?
All right. Yeah. The Indie Pod Summit. I was part of the Indie Pod Summit. It was amazing. There's some more data that's going to be coming out soon that you all need to keep an eye out. Colin did a fantastic job with his keynote. There was some very, very interesting discussion about podcast creators. So please, please, please pay attention to everything that's going out of the Indie Pod Summit. So that's where I was. And we are going to be going into no pod fade guarantee for 2023. This is a live event that Bethany Hawkins and I will be putting on February 15th at 2 p.m. Eastern. And it is really, really just focusing on making sure that you do not peter out or feel too overwhelmed, to give you some truth about why people, abandon or quit their podcast, really helping you to start your podcast with at least 10 episodes and breaking down a workflow for you. Now, if you're not just launching, it's okay, because you're going to get tips to be able to optimize your production moving forward. And really, what happens if your show does pod fade? Like, what do you do? We're going to be talking about all those things because we want to make you keep podcasting. All right, that is that. But then we have Podcast Movement Evolutions, right?
Yes, that is coming up March 7th to 10th in Las Vegas. So you can go check it out at evolutions.podcastmovement.com. Look forward to seeing folks there in LA, and then Las Vegas, not LA. And then we're going to be back in Las Vegas April 15th to 19th at the NAB show. Excited for that. Then you've got a show in June.
I do have a show in June. It is She Podcast Live. Please get your tickets, everybody. Come on now. You need to show up to this. By the way, we just released the Sonic Bloom Awards, which are part now of the She Podcast conference. That's where they're going to be happening. It is an incredibly fun event that Jess has put together in conjunction with Casa Media. And you guys need to go over to the website to see how lovely all of the stuff are. And you can definitely submit your show if it matches all of the parts to be considered for an award. It's very great. There's all kinds of really interesting awards. Go take them out. Look at the categories. All right.
And we will have a few others that we're going to in the first half and throughout 2023, and we'll mention them as we get closer. Folks, check your calendars, block off those dates now. And if you are looking for a job in podcasting, make sure to go to podcastingjobs.com. And don't forget to send in your feedback for anything we did or did not mention on this episode. And see, this is our final call to action that Steph mentioned. Again, wrap it all up. And you can record that feedback and email it to us, thefeed@libsyn.com, or you can call us at 412-573-1934, or you can use SpeakPipe at speakpipe.com/thefeed. So there we go. All wrapped up.
All wrapped up. And we will chat with you all in a couple of weeks.
Ciao.
Bye.